Hi there, welcome to the YouTube channel. I'm back again, and we're going back into normal sort of like service day after the bonus video yesterday, which celebrated my 200th follower on my Twitch channel. If you want to come and join in the fun, there's a link down below, so you can come and do that. But anyway, we're back, and it's the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, and this is what we're looking at today. It is Vito, Fanatic of Aclazotz, I don't know, Aclazotz. I'm not going to try and say it, I'm just going to call it Vito. New version of Vito. Legendary Vampire Demon, 4/4 for 4 mana, 2 white and black. Has flying, and whenever you sacrifice another permanent, you gain 2 life if this is the first time this ability is resolved. If it's the second time, each opponent loses 2 life, and if it's the third time, you get a 4/3 Vampire Demon creature token with flying that's black and white. I like this card. It's very reminiscent of the versions of Omnath we've seen, where multiple things happen, especially the multicolour ones. You'll remember the landfall one and all the confusion that caused. It reminds me very much of that. But this is very interesting because it's about sacrificing, and it is sacrificing a permanent, not a creature, which is unusual for black, but just any permanent you happen to have in play. So how have I built it? Well, as I'm saying with all of my Lost Caverns of Ixalan's decks, obviously I'm doing this as spoilers are still coming out, so there may be cards added. There are a few more cards from LCI in here, so unfortunately I've had to do, well, luckily, let's start at the beginning. Goldfish have actually put all the cards on, so that's great, but I'm having to use their deck editor to show the cards off. So here we go, this is today's deck. And because of the way that MTG Goldfish works, we start with the creatures. So there's a few creatures you probably will recognise. So Thraben the Spectre gives us a clue, which is something we can sacrifice, to start triggering Vito. Visuoseer just gives us a way of sacrificing creatures, so we can make sure we're sacrificing things on a regular basis if we need to. And Bartolomeo del Presidio. This is a new card coming in from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. It's a 2/1 for black and a red, black and a red, black and a white, and you can sacrifice another creature or artifact to it, and put a +1/+1 counter on Bartolomeo, another sacrifice outlet. But this one lets you do your artifacts as well, which could be useful with some of the treasure tokens we've got coming up shortly. Elias, you've all seen before, but gives us a little bit of life gain and a bit of life loss for our opponents. Priest of the Forgotten Gods gives us a way to sack a creature if we need to. Any number of target players each lose 2 life to sacrifice a creature. We get a couple of black and draw a card, but it's another sacrifice outlet. Zulaport Cutthroat, you probably expect to be in here. It's a sacrifice deck at the end of the day, so this helps. And Athros, God of Passage, I thought this was quite a nice home for it. You're going to be sacrificing permanent creatures, not tokens, because obviously damage and you don't get to do that with them. But you can sacrifice a lot of your normal creatures, and this is a nice way of getting some of them back. Plus, when you get the 7 devotion into play, it gives you a nice 5/4 beta that's very hard to remove. Bygone Bishop, it gives you some clue tokens every time we cast something that costs 3 or less, which we have quite a few of coming up now. So Demon's Disciple is one of the ones, sacrifice a creature or a planeswalker. Everyone does it, so it's a sacrifice effect instantly for you. Then Thalor, Ruling Steward, comes in from Lord of the Rings. At the beginning of your end step, you get to get a token, a 1/1 human soldier, if you've got another creature that's died that turn, and you probably will be killing a lot of creatures off, so, repeated fodder. The Discerning Financer gives us a treasure token, which we can sack off. Fane the Broker pumps our creatures up, gives us a treasure token, or we sacrifice one of our treasures to get us 2/1 flyer Inkling, and pay some more mana to untap him and keep going if we need to. So quite a nice little thing going on there. Fleshbag Marauder goes in the same place as the Disciple. Everyone sacrifice things. Same with Gravelighter. Gravelighter's a bit different though, because you either get a card because everyone's had a creature die, or everyone's sacrificed a creature. So and it's a 2/2 flyer at the end of the day, so that may be a little bit better. Gumdrop Poisoner comes in from Wildsville Drain, gets us a few tokens, so we've got something to sacrifice that way. And then when we gain some life, it can enter the battlefield and give something -X/-X, which might kill it off. Merciless Executioner joins the pile of 3-drops that kill things or sacrifice things when they come into play. Nadia's Nightblade, whenever a non-token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1, you gain 1, so benefit from losing your food token, your treasure tokens you may have, even the clue tokens that you could get off the Bygone Bishop, and I figured it was worth playing it in here. Nantuku Husk, just another sacrifice outlet. Plague Crafter does the whole everyone sacks something, and if they can't, in this case, each player who can't discards a card. So yeah, you'll obviously sacrifice the Plague Crafter, so you'll never discard anything. Rapture's Guest, whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a food token. Okay then. Don't forget, if you attack all three of your opponents, if you've still got three opponents when the Geist is in play, and hopefully one of them gets through to deal combat damage, you get a food token for each opponent. You know, it's per player, not just if they get damage in. Bear in mind. Gets bigger when you sacrifice the foods, and when it leaves play, target opponent loses life equal to its power, which can get quite high quite quickly. Devouring Sugarmore. I decided to put this in. I don't know why this brought up this version of it. It is funny, this version, but it's not the one I prefer. But yeah, 1 and a white for a 1/1 human and a food, and then you get the Menace Trample Beast. Don't forget, even if you haven't got anything to sacrifice to it, you can sacrifice itself to one of your effects. It's there. Grim Hiling. 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player. Create 2 treasure tokens, same as before. If you get damage in on all your opponents, you get 6 treasure tokens, which is really nice. Mirkwood Bats, whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses a life. Probably going to be something that dies very quickly. Whisper Blood Litigust, another way of getting creatures back. Sacrifice a couple of creatures, and we've got some token generators coming up, so we're not sacrificing all of our 28 creatures all the time, so bear that in mind. Sacrifice it, and you get to return this creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, which could be useful. The other version of Aclazotz is here, so I figured we might as well have them both in and hopefully get some coin counters put on them, and yeah, get it back into play, get those creatures back into play under our control when they die. Grave Titan, Sun Titan, you all know what they do. Grave Titan gives you zombies. Sun Titan brings things back with mana cost 3 or less. Nice way of bringing back your Marauders, for example. And Bringer of the Last Gift is one of the new cards from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. 6/6 for a 6/6 flyer, Vampire Demon that costs you 8 mana, which is pricey. But when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, each player sacrifices all other creatures they control. Then each player returns all creature cards from their graveyard that weren't put there this way to the battlefield. So basically, it's kind of like a mini living death type thing is how I describe it best. You sacrifice all your creatures, comes into play, this stays. Put them to one side, look through your graveyard, get all the creatures in your graveyard to one side. They come back into play. Everything that was in play goes to your graveyard. It's kind of a flying living death, I think, if I'm reading it right and how I understand it. Anyway, if I'm wrong, I'm sure you can tell me in the comments down below. Tevash is here, just to give us some way of sacrificing things off if we need to. It's the only planeswalker in the deck. You can easily drop this, by the way, and replace it with one of the cheaper planeswalkers if you want to. I just have it in here because it's in my MTGO collection. I'll just point that out there. Invasion of Atolvadar brings something back. Return target non-battle permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Nice way of getting back something from up here that's been killed off already. And then if you could get it flicked over, it really does help your tokens out that you're going to be producing. And it gives you, a spirit every turn, so that's good. Creature tokens you control get +1/+0 and have a lifelink. Quite like that. Speaking of tokens, Secure the Waste gives us a whole load of warriors. Marshal Coop will blow the board up and give us soldiers. Hopefully we'll be able to pump 6x equals 5+ onto this, so we get to blow the board up and get the soldiers to defend ourselves. Raise the Alarm gives us more soldiers. Return Triumphant. You're probably wondering why this is here. We've got a lot of things that cost 3 or less, and having him come back in with a young hero role attached to him isn't the worst plan in the world. It's a nice little cheap manipulation of your graveyard. Sunset Reveille for life creatures and cards. Midnight Haunting for some instant speed spirits. Sworn Companions for some soldiers with lifelink. And Terror Tide, another new card that comes in from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. All creatures get -X/-X until the end of turn, where X is the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. Permanent cards. Now, if I've got this right, not talking about card types, I'm talking about permanents. You've got 6 creatures in your graveyard, and you play this, everything's going to get -6/-6. Same lands, so on and so forth. That's how I understand it. Again, I haven't read the rules. The FAQ's not out yet, I'm guessing, but this is what I think it does. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks. And Blood Money is also here. Destroy all creatures, you get a tap treasure token for each one, so it gives you a nice way of sacrificing a whole load of stuff to get this triggering really quickly each turn. Just one thing I will point out, If you can sacrifice permanents during your opponent's turn, you do get to do this. So having treasures and clues and things that you can sacrifice off to do this isn't the worst plan in the world at all. Artifact wise, usual selection here. Mox Tantalites here, Elixir of Immortality, a sacrifice and a shuffle effect, which we do need. Soul Ring for some mana ramp. Witch's Cauldron, sack a creature or sack one of our tokens we've created, gain a life, draw a card. Arcane Signet, the Jet and the Pearl Medallions are here. Mind Stones here for a bit of ramp and sacrifice eventually. Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar are also here just to sacrifice things off so that we can get extra mana if we need it. Bontu's Monument, because we have a lot of black creatures. We have a lot more black creature spells than we do anything else. I think it's slightly better than the white one. So you could play both. You could drop out the Commander's Sphere or the Locket if you want to play the white version. So bear that in mind. The Sphere is here. Sacrifice, colour, ramp. And the Aclazotz Locket. Interesting choice for me. I'm sure you're probably not expecting to see this today. But green, white and black for a Locket. Fine, 3 mana. Bit expensive to cast. But, you know, 4 mana. So 4 white, 4 black, or a combination thereof. Sacrifice it, draw a couple of cards. Could be useful. Blood Chief Ascension comes back in. We're going to be sacrificing. We're hopefully going to be causing people to lose life, so we should get some counters on here quite quickly and start doing it every turn. Legion's Landing counts as our 36th land, as well as giving us a vampire and a way to create vampire tokens if we need them. Stockpile, we're going to be sacrificing permanents, so we're going to get servos. Bastion of Remembrance gives us another way of draining people for life as things die, as our creatures die. Oath of Gideon just gives us a couple of core allies and does make, you know, Tevash a little bit bigger when it comes in, but it's just a cheap way of getting an extra couple of creatures in, really. You could drop this out quite happily for something else. Dramatic Finale. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1, and whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, you get Inkling, which is nice. Smothering Tithe. Treasures. Don't like this artwork. Use the original one, please. Thanks. Campaign of Vengeance. Whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses one, you gain one. That's quite a nice little way of sort of winning the game eventually. Along with Polluted Bonds, which I do like. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under opponent's control, they lose 2, you gain 2. Nice. Revel in Riches gives you another backup win condition with hopefully the treasures coming into play. And Virtue of Loyalty gives you a nice knight and then pumps all your creatures up when you get it in play as the enchantment. This is a card that is getting expensive at the moment. It's only 2 tickets on MTGO. But if I remember correctly, in real life, it's going up. Yeah, it's gone up to, it was $9 when I looked the other week. It's now up to better part of 12. So bear that in mind. Pick them up now if you haven't already. Going back to MTGO, because that's one I tend to be on. And then it's just the lands. I will point out that I do have every single one of the Streets of New Capenna lands in the deck that do the whole search out a swamp or a plains. They're all here because you do sacrifice them, so they do trigger Vito when Vito's in play. Beyond that, Arndale, Kolos, Command Beacon, Command Tower, you can work out. Evolving Wilds is here. I've got the temples in. I did try and keep it down. So Temple of False God, Temple of Silence, Terramorphic, Vault of Champions, Warped Landscape, 5 swamps, 6 plains, and a whole selection of lands to savour. But that's it. That is today's deck tech. That is Vito. I hope you've enjoyed this little run through on Vito very quickly. Yeah, making bigger. Boom. But like I say, again, this is starting place. I'm recording this before the whole spoilers come out, so hopefully this will give us something we can look at. And yeah, hopefully you'll come and see me in the next video. Take care. See you soon. Bye.